Elden Ring. Oh, Elden Ring. We've ranked the 15 main bosses in the game, and I initially thought of doing the same for the mini-bosses, then I realised how many of them there were, and decided to stick with a top 10. Unlike the main boss ranking, this one is purely based on enjoyment, not anything like difficulty or music. So if you're one of those people who are like, I beat Elden Beast in 30 seconds, congratulations, do you want a f***ing medal? Then instead talk about the fun you had with the bosses I list out today. The only rule I have with this list is that I can only choose one of each reskin. So either Akil or Grail, or Smaragd / Adula. With that in mind, let's rank them. But before we do, please give the video a like and subscribe to the channel. It's completely free, and it's more helpful than you can imagine. Anyways, on with the video. Number 10, Loretta, Knight of the Erdtree. Extra Life really need to sort out their page that determines what's a mini-boss and what's a field boss. Genuinely, you look on the main page and Loretta is under Field Boss, then you click on her page and it says Great Enemy, aka Mini-Boss. Same goes for Royal Knight Loretta, Godfrey, Moog the Omen, Commander Niall, Commander O'Neill, and literally all the Dragon Boss fights. How can I make this list if the list is inaccurate? Anyway, Loretta is probably the best horseback boss in the game. Obviously there are moves that are the exact same as the Tree Sentinels and Knight's Cavalry, but there are also extra attacks using magic. I think having Loretta be the boss before Millennia is both a good and a bad thing. It's a good thing because the Erdtree definitely needed more than just one boss, and Loretta is a great fit for it. But I think it's a bad thing, because I would have preferred a boss that would help you prepare for Millennia. That being said, Loretta, Knight of the Erdtree, is a fun boss, and a good step up from a Royal Knight counterpart in Liurnia. Number 9, Borealis, the Freezing Fog. A cool name, a cool gimmick, let down by the fact that the moveset is mostly a copy of the other dragons. The same goes for the look too. I wish they had more than just one dragon design for the mini-bosses. Give them extra legs, or differently shaped wings, anything! I honestly think that given the right amount of treatment, Borealis could have been more worthy as a main boss than the Fire Giant. Better still, imagine if they combined the two into one fight. Imagine a dragon with an eye in its chest and an injured wing. Now imagine if in phase 2 he tears the wing off and the eye opens, changing his ice breath to a profaned flame breath. With all that being said, by the time I got to Borealis I was a little tired of dragon fights, but he still holds his own as a pretty good one. I really like the idea of an ice dragon, and I hope it's a concept that FromSoft improve upon in the future. Number 8, Dragonkin Soldier of Nokstella. Almost the exact opposite of Borealis. The Dragonkin Soldier design is really cool and unique, but they lack a cool name and gimmick. I think if they leaned into the soldier part of the name, and making them closer to the size of someone like Morgott instead of someone like Radahn, they could have been amazing. I think the idea of a humanoid dragon is really cool, and I wish it was something we saw more of, but what we got instead isn't bad by any means. The biggest downside is that there are 3 of them with no differences between them, apart from the arena. Taking down massive bosses doesn't get old though, and I had a lot of enjoyment fighting this boss. Number 7, Ancestor Spirit. Take everything I said for the Regal Ancestor Spirit boss in the main boss ranking video, and apply it to this. They are literally the same boss, but this one has less attacks and lower health. Call this heresy, but I think the Ancestor Spirit is more fun because it doesn't teleport away every 20 seconds. Obviously the Regal version is better overall, but my experience with the normal Ancestor Spirit is more memorable to me. Let me know which one you'd prefer between the two. Also, I know that we're kind of flying through these entries, but mini-bosses have a lot less to say than the main bosses. Number 6, Leonin Misbegotten. Upon replaying the game, I forgot how fun the fight against Leonin Misbegotten was. Castle Morn is far from my favourite area. The flying Misbegottens are such annoying enemies to hit, and dogs will be dogs. But this boss combined with the Claymore and the Grafted Blade Greatsword gave me a fond memory of the place. Speaking of which, when you beat the Leonin Misbegotten, you get the Grafted Blade Greatsword, and while its stat requirements are too high in my opinion, it still looks really cool. Overall, a fun fight with a nice reward in a pretty good area. Sometimes that's enough. Number 5, Red Wolf of Radagon. Sith plus magic equals this boss. That's the kind of maths you'll be learning at the Raya Lucaria Academy. It's amusing to me how Rennala kept Radagon's wolf in the divorce, even more so assuming she taught the doggo magic. While the Red Wolf doesn't quite carry the weight that the Sith fight did, it's still very fun. I willfully ignore the fact that this boss is not only reskinned in another dungeon, but also in the open world. There's not much to say really. Mini-bosses in this game tend to be a solid fights with almost no lore. No lore to northern. Mini-bosses in this game tend to be solid fights with almost no lore. So having one with lore adds to my personal experience. Number 4. Flying Dragon Akil. The lad has a lake named after him. For the first dragon fight most will come across, he's a solid choice. Basic fire, stomp and swipe attacks are expected, and not overdone at this point. I was going to say that having the fight take place in a lake is unique, but then I remembered Smaragd exists. Even then, there's a sense of presence with Akil, not only with the lake being named after him, but also with NPCs name dropping him. That's the one thing lacking with the other fights. I don't remember anyone mentioning Smaragd, or Adula, or Grail, or even Borealis. This to me is what makes Flying Dragon Akil the best dragon mini-boss in the entire game, and he only misses out on the top 3 thanks to all the reskins. Before we go to our top 3, I wanted to give a few honourable mentions. First, we have Smaragd and Adula. I initially had them in the top 10, but replaced them with Leon and Misbegotten. Smaragd guards the key to the academy, but you don't even have to fight them. Adula guards Ranni's Rise, but you only have to get them down to half health. Another honourable mention is Elmer of the Briar. I like the idea of him, and I like how you can get his sword, but this is the same fight as those annoyingly OP bell-bearing hunters, so I didn't want to put him on the list. The final honourable mention is Magmaworm Makar, a fun boss, but there are several versions of this fight, and the one in Caelid offers better rewards. Anyways, on to the top 3. Number 3, Mohg the Omen. Mohg, Lord of Blood, is my favourite fight in the game, so his lesser version was guaranteed a top 3 spot. Fun fact, according to Zolly the Witch, this boss was made before they came up with a design for Mohg. The AI name was Greater Demon. Fun fact to one side, the fight itself is really cool, even if getting to it is a massive pain. I do like the fact that this is the boss you have to beat to get to the 3 fingers. I also love the fact that the soundtrack is basically the Lord of Blood Phase 1 soundtrack, but without the bells or the choir. It definitely feels like this isn't his final form, and only hints at the pure evil that's beneath him. I wanted to put Mohg the Omen at number 1, but considering the other 2 bosses in the top 3, it's easy to see while I find them all equally enjoyable, Mohg is the least memorable. Number 2, Godfrey, First Elden Lord, Golden Shade. Same as Mohg, I love how the OST for this fight is the same as the main boss version, but with parts of the orchestra taken away. I like the moveset, I like the golden aesthetic, I like how this fight takes place before the Morgott fight, and I like how it's in the same arena as Sir Gideon Ofnir, the All-Knowing. I also like how you enter at a different angle for the 2 fights, so it feels different when you arrive. One thing that I think becomes understated when talking about Elden Ring bosses is that the mini-bosses like Godfrey are a prelude for the real deal, and so they can elevate the experiences of those fights. Imagine getting caught 15 times by Godfrey's stomp, and then realising you're not even getting caught once by the main Godfrey. It's moments like those where you feel like you truly have made progress. This top 3 can go either way. As a matter of fact, I prefer Mohg as a fight, but I think Godfrey works better functionally as a mini-boss. But for me, there was only one mini-boss that could take the number 1 spot.
Foul tarnished, in search of the Elden Ring, emboldened by the flame of ambition.
Number 1, Margit the Fell Omen. A mini-boss with more connections and relevance to the entire game than any other. This is a boss that gets you to explore the rest of Limgrave because of how tough he is for the early game. Extensively acting as the Bell Gargoyles or Father Gascoigne of Elden Ring, he teaches you how the game works, and this is what separates him from all the other mini-bosses on this list. For most people, to prove yourself worthy of the rest of the game, you have to surpass Margit. And for repeat players, he's still challenging enough to be considered a threat, but because you've faced him several times before, he's also easy enough to avoid getting hit. Margit is the mini-boss that summarises everything that a boss should be. A difficulty spike that becomes a mere speed bump once you get good. Do you agree? Let me know in the comments. Also, please like and subscribe. I'm slowly running out of ideas for ranking videos specific to Elden Ring, so I might be doing rankings for the other games as well in the future, or I'll be dissecting each main boss in this game. Please let me know which one you would prefer to see. Until next time, my friends.
Last of all kings.
More got these nuts in your mouth. I mean, what?